Hi, good morning. Today I'm going to be trying, I've had a lot of this before, but I'm going to be trying on camera Iron Monk from Trident Cafe in Boulder, Colorado. So the reason why I'm choosing to drink this today, so the energy of this tea is pretty masculine, like it's pretty grounding, stern, almost thorough, and it's a Saturday, and that means I'm going to be going on a run and I'm going to be doing more work. So that's the reason why I'm drinking this today. Other teas are more playful. I wouldn't consider this a playful tea. It's not that mystical or far out either. It's just like really good, kind of simple, but solid, like energy, and that's what I'm looking for. Focused, I would say as well, not really like spun up in the clouds, like down here on earth doing work. So, a little bit of the history of the tea. This is, I think, one of the great four like rock oolongs of Wuji. Wuyi. I don't know how to speak Mandarin. I just drink their teas. And it's a rock oolong. So it's like a specially cultivated type of oolong, and for those of you who don't know what oolongs are, it's essentially a cross between a green and a black tea. It's roasted, it's from 2022. And on the notes, I'm getting like dried fruit, like rocks, and I think that's what they note as well. They say like gravel and prunes. I feel like I've told my mom about this tea, and she's like, really? Like, you drink tea that tastes like gravel? It's like, yes, Mom, yes, I do. And currently, actually, I'm gonna get a lot of work done today, so I'm gonna add a lot of tea. I'm currently I haven't had any tea today, so you're seeing me in my like waking state. So throughout the course of time, you'll see my energy shift, and as a tea drinker, oh yeah, say hello to Prince Zuko. This is the first video of my new channel. That's my cat. Master Zuko, he's behaving well. Yeah, that's why I'm drinking this tea today. A little bit of history, you can read more about the history. I care about the history. I mostly care about how it affects me, how it affects my psyche, how it affects my focus, when it's good to pour, like in what circumstances I'd want to pour it. But here we go. Okay, so this, and if you've noticed the tendril of smoke rising from right there, that incense that you can't smell is Shoido White River incense from Amazon. One of my favorites right now. It's like $1.50 for a coil. Good stuff, I like it. This is like 210 degree water. And I guess I'll rinse this very briefly first and then get started with it. And leaf ratios on what I'm putting in the gaiwan, what I'm putting in the tea, totally not tracking at all. I usually brew these teas kind of rich, and as opposed to other oolongs like high mountain Taiwanese oolongs, these teas usually can take a higher temperature. So that's why I'm brewing this at like 210. A normal like Taiwanese high mountain oolong that's more green, I'm gonna brew it like 185, even less, just not to push it hard if it's a super floral oolong. So I'll smell a wet leaf. I get this like, kind of like old carpet, like a carpet in elementary school that I would like roll around on. And some like dried fruit. That's what I get from that. And a little bit of a smoky, like not really a campfire smoke, but just something like dark in that capacity. So I'm gonna do a really short infusion here. I'm not gonna push this tea that hard. Other tea people might say that I wanna steep it for a longer period of time. By default, I'm gonna take it kind of easy and not push this tea. And then later I can get into more of like the backbone of it. Let's get like a kind of like a buttery, like butterscotch note at first. It's bright, it feels rich. It kind of reminds me of like the Lipton black tea that my mom would make in large amounts as a kid, and drink that. It's kind of like frothy in the mouth. And I guess a note on the reason why I swish my teas. I often find that the tea is most like acutely psychoactive or like immediately psychoactive, like in the gums. So in the same way that if you put in a Zen pouch, a knick-knack, some nicotine into your lip, you'll be able to feel that psychoactively pretty soon. The same thing is true for this. This is also a drug. And when I swish around all the membranes in my mouth, it gets into my bloodstream a little bit faster and I can feel the effects more strongly. I also believe that it like indicates to my body what's going into it, and it's a better way to like figure out what I'm consuming as a plant. Interesting. I'm familiar with this. It's not that interesting to me. I've had it a lot. So I'm just going to leave the lid off. I'll drink this one, and then while that's cooling down, I'll tell you a little bit more about the energy. So, as I mentioned earlier, the reason why I'm drinking this today is because, one, it called to me and I looked at 50 different teas and I was like, oh, I want that one. I actually wanted another one, another like big red robe variety that I ran out of, but I found like the remainder of this bag and I was like, yeah, that's what I'll make this video about. That should bring out a little bit more from it. So, a couple things. When I find that I like breathe and settle before pouring the tea, before drinking the tea, like taking a lot of my intention, just like dropping all of the baggage away from me that doesn't need to be there, kind of like emptying my own cup, like creating a sacred moment, like creating that ceremony. I'm able to invite like divinity into an empty container. Like there's some like Ram Dass quote, somebody or another. It says like where I am not, God is. And tea for me has been a wonderful practice of both getting high, consuming caffeine because I like working hard, and like putting everything else aside, coming to the center of the page of life where like I'm both on something that helps me think, move through the world and live in the material world, and also provide a container for ceremony where I can show up grounded, calm, and present. Like from that calm and grounded, pleasant place, adding caffeine on top of that, but not just caffeine, a bunch of other little things in here. Lets me be both centered on what I want to do and where I want to go, and then turn up the firepower that helps me get there. I feel like if we don't center before we turn up the firepower, you just kind of like blast everywhere for no reason. And I feel like a lot of people, like I watched my parents, like my dad like drinks lots of coffee and he's done a lot of things in his life. Like I love my dad, he's incredibly hardworking, like really high character person. But like coffee for me would like show me what I needed to do, but then leave me a little bit deprived there afterwards. It's similar to tea, but I would say that coffee has a much more like industrious energy. Like coffee, when Europeans started consuming it, gave birth to things like political revolutions, the Industrial Revolution, like when women stormed the Bastille during the French Revolution, and they were all livid pissed that the king was kinging up, and they wanted to cut off his head. I feel like they were all like 40 cups of coffee deep, like at a cafe, and they were all like, fuck this guy, and like went for his throat. And that's beautiful. Like, perhaps he deserved that. I didn't live back then. But tea to me, I could pour you a tea that would make you feel something like that. I could pour you like 10 different types of tea right now that would like bring you in 10 different directions. Every tea has a slightly different direction. And this is the one I'm choosing today. So I brewed that a little bit longer, a little bit fuller, a little bit richer. There's a strong like minerality to this tea as well. Like it kind of tastes like a punch in the face, which is kind of nice. And that's what I'm seeking, like in these psychoactive effects as well. Like I want this like stern, deep, like into the base of my spine punch, without like making me tweaky. So I can feel this like tingling around my occiput. I can feel like me going from like prayerful mode and then like starting to be on the psychoactive profile of this tea. You can kind of feel this like gritty, masculine, powerful, like coming through and like getting a bit serious about it, which I don't find on something like the high mountain oolongs that I love drinking as well, and I drink them almost every day. At this point in time, I'm getting like, I almost caught like a woman's perfume from like 2010, like Versace Bright Crystal or something like that. Or in combination with a little bit of leather. But I usually keep this closed, especially with my like other clay pot that I'll pour pu'ers in. And then when I tell people to smell tea, I'll just kind of like give it to them, not to have them burn their nose, but just like not let the genie out of the bottle too much, because these really interesting florals and things will come off if you want to notice it first. And I'm taking that lid off right now so that I don't essentially over bake this tea, which I don't do with other teas, and I don't normally do. There's this like astringent quality to my palate as well. And I wouldn't say that I'm that technical of somebody who pours tea. I I know what tastes good and I know what I like and I know not to push the tea too hard. But I have friends who have traveled a lot to Asia, been to hundreds of different tea houses. I've never even been to Asia. I just consume their medicines. I get high on their drugs. And but I have a friend named Air who's super particular about graceful, but still very particular about like certain brewing tactics, and he probably knows more than I do about that. Air, if you're watching this, I'd love to learn a little bit more from you. But I do think that my taste in the psychoactive profile of tea is pretty world class. I practice a lot of traditional Chinese medicine. I do qigong. This is pretty much the only psychoactive that I consume, and other than nicotine, I consume clean label nicotine mints to work, and I like put nicotine patches on my back. Caffeine and nicotine are fueling the economy of the world. But in all of these things, like people drink coffee every day. They go to Starbucks, they get a $8 latte, whatever it might be. And I feel like the greatest hack, if you consume caffeine every day, is, like, especially as a Westerner, like I can afford $10 of tea every day. And the difference between like a 10-cent bag of Lipton and like $1 of like the nicest black tea you could ever have is like 1,000x. And it's only a 90-cent difference, and it adds to your day. But I think that people mostly don't know where to start. Chinese culture generally, I don't think is very well understood by Westerners. I think in India, you have people like Paramahansa Yogananda coming over in like the 1800s and like sharing yoga with California, having that spread around the rest of the United States. But I think like the silk veil on China was only lifted like around the time of the Cultural Revolution, maybe like the 1970s, when people started figuring out really like anything about Chinese culture. In addition, Chinese mysticism, like all of this like voodoo magic performed and qigong and like energy healing, I believe is essentially illegal in China. Like you're not allowed to have a relationship with the divine, however that shows up. And I hold this perception that, like, so all of these healers and people in China are underground, I perceive. And like a Westerner learning about and understanding the mystical like subculture, underground subculture of China would be nearly equivalent to somebody in China learning about like the psychedelic underground in America, which is like underground, not talked about until about like 8 years ago, I would say. Things have changed a lot in 8 years. But I would say that there's an equivalent richness of the psychedelic underground in America as there is in like the mystical Chinese like underground of like energy healing and things that go back like 5,000 years. Like China and traditional Chinese medicine go back like, I think like ancient Egypt was like 4,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. No. Yeah, 4,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. And ancient China started about the same time, maybe like 1,000 years later. So like that, I think, is the oldest like singular like large culture in the entire world that has maintained some amount of cultural legacy and just hasn't had all of their books burned or like all of their mystics, artists, poets, writers like completely killed, genocided over like a 5,000 year stretch. And that's largely why I'm pulled to traditional Chinese medicine, is because they watched fads like keto, carnivore, vegan, whatever it might be, like do this for 5,000 years, and they practiced. And they're also one of the most intelligent group of people on planet Earth. They just figured out some things, wrote it down in a book, and it's misunderstood by the West. So while I'm drinking tea, I usually do this and either shut up, sit prayerfully, like feel, like be with the tea, empty my cup, or I will write, journal if I feel inspired to, or just like plan my day, or get started with work. More mystical, far out teas I would never want to work on, but I might journal on them, something of the sort. And then kind of once I've like taken that download, written it all down, I'll plan my day kind of in accordance to that macro vision that I've laid out. And I feel very anchored on where I want to go in this world, what I want to do before I die, super inspired to get there. And then I draw it in, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do today to get there? And then I make that happen that day. And with some like further out, like airier teas, I'll just kind of have to flip a switch because I'll just keep on pouring. Like a lot of like old gushu, like ancient tree pu'ers, I could just pour for like 50, 60 steeps. So I'll just pouring tea. But with this one tea that I had a deep relationship with for quite a few years, I would have to like flip a switch, just like put the tea away and start working on what I was inspired to. But teas like this are not like that. They're quite simple. These aren't from ancient trees. This is a farm tea. Like I'm drinking this today because I don't really want to get out into the clouds. I just want to like lock in. And I'm high on this tea now. Like I can feel warmth in my face, warmth in my ears. Perhaps you've seen my demeanor change a little bit. I'm a little bit more energetic in my vocal expressions, but not by much. I'm not all over the place, like spazzing out. I'm not like big bug-eyed. I just feel a little bit more locked in and settled, despite being reasonably high on this drug right now. I don't think my demeanor has changed that much, and it felt a bit more it almost makes me want to growl a little bit. But after this, I'll probably go walk through Alamo Square Park. I live in San Francisco, California. Do a little bit of Qigong, come back and get started crushing things, moving things forward. We're launching a product at work right now. We had an internal feature where people could talk to multiple AI assistants at once that we put into our app, Not a Doctor. And then Chris, the CEO, was like, hey, like this is useful. And even people like my dad were like, oh wow, like I don't even pay for ChatGPT Premium, but I want to ask multiple AI models the same thing. And so we're shipping that right now. We're like going balls to the wall. Like I'm working all this weekend, just like super excited, like a little kid. And it's fun to watch that happen. And I guess a little bit about my work while we're all here listening to Weston rant. For the past like 2 years, like 2 years ago, I started, 1.5, I don't really care. Started building traditional Chinese medicine AI diagnostics. And that's still the thing that I want to leave the world before I die. I believe that $1 of herbs every day, precision diagnosed and like administered to you, is like the biggest bang for buck thing that nobody is doing. With herbal medicine, it's like, do we want to drink or do we want to take ashwagandha? It's like, well, like that reduces stress. Like, do you really want to reduce all of your stress? Is this like ubiquitously useful for people to consume? There are a couple studies published on it. Everybody's like, oh my God, let's all take ashwagandha. It's like, well, maybe not. Maybe that resonates with you. But I was building AI diagnostics to find traditional Chinese medicine patterns. And then from those very specifically defined patterns, tell people what foods would resonate with them best and why, and what herbal medicines and more lately animal tonics like deer placenta and things of that sort would resonate with them well. Okay, cool. I think that was probably like a 25-minute long video. I'm gonna go do some Qigong in the park now. I'm gonna keep on pushing this with boiling water just to like get whatever's left out of it. There's still a bit more to go. I could probably be sitting here for another 10 minutes, like drinking this myself, 15 minutes, and still getting more out of the leaf. But yeah, that's the first video that I'm making for this new tea channel that I'll probably be recording Saturdays, Sundays, something of the sort, maybe every week. Inviting people into what I'm consuming, both with teas, probably with traditional Chinese medicines as well. Those are a little bit more subtle, but perhaps more profound in changing the body, changing how we feel. But otherwise, this serves as a container for me to share with my close friends what teas I'm pouring. And I would like to share with them, but don't have the time to. All right, that's all for now. I'll keep drinking. Peace out.